Vicente Luque is a Brazilian-American UFC fighter who competes in the welterweight division. He has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, as well as one in Lutte Livre. Luque lives in Florida and trains at the world-renowned Killcliff FC gym. He was married to Carol Silveira on March 16, 2019, though they've been in a relationship for 11 years prior to their marriage. Together they have one son, Bento, who was born in 2021. Both Vicente and his wife Carol were baptized on the same day on November 18, 2023. Fellow UFC fighter Gregory Rodriguez, known by UFC fans as RoboCop, performed the baptism for Vicente, and Gregory's wife Jessica baptized his wife Carol side by side. Fellow UFC fighter Ariana Lipski was also baptized along with her husband by the Rodriguez family as well on the same day. The church is called Mananciais Church and is located in Boca Raton, Florida, which is about 25 miles north of Fort Lauderdale. It is a Portuguese-speaking church. This church has quite a few notable UFC fighters as members. Here's Luque talking about a few that attend church with him.
Give me your first name, who belongs on the Brazilian UFC.
First name's got to be Vitor Belfort.
Okay.
The youngest UFC champion. He was back in the days. At 19 years old, he was a champion, and for Brazil, he's a huge name. He's a huge name, like anywhere, in the US or whatever, MMA related. But in Brazil, he's one of those guys that really made a difference, and personally was the guy that inspired me back in the day. And now I get to, I am friends with him. I see him multiple times a week. We go to the same church, so it's great to have that relationship, learn a lot from him, and he's got to be there. A guy, one of the best finishers ever, very exciting fighter, a beast. But also like getting here and really getting to spend time with Gilbert. We've always been friends, but now we get to see each other every day, and also during the weekends, and spend time together when I have a fight, when I don't have a fight. Also, Gregory has become a very, very good friend of mine. I cornered him on his last fight, and it's much more than just the fighting aspect of it. We all go to the same church. We all are really, sharing not only God's word, but also our experiences together as fighters as well. And all this, I think, that really connects us, and it has been a great moment, a great moment of development. Not only as a fighter, obviously, I know how much I'm getting better as a fighter, but as a person, just as a human being here, I think that, we have to keep on developing until the last day of our lives, getting better, and that's what I feel right now is going on.
So Luque attends church alongside Vitor Belfort, Gilbert Burns, and Gregory Rodriguez. With so many UFC fighters, they utilize martial arts as a ministry of their church, and have done BJJ rolling sessions, which they promoted on their social media. In a group photo of those who attended the BJJ roll were not only Rodriguez, Burns, and Luque, but also Renato Moicano. The person in the middle is their pastor, Mananciais, who you will notice has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. Now, as for Vicente's faith, he started taking it seriously after his fight with Jeff Neal, who delivered the first ever knockout loss to Luque. Luque suffered a brain bleed, which is an extremely uncommon MMA injury. That led to a year-long layoff where he grew in his faith. Here's how he describes the transformation in his own words.
You've been really open about your Christian faith. Just can you talk about or describe how that impacts you in your personal life and in your fight life as well?
Yeah, this is a great question. And yeah, I've believed in God for a long time, since before I got into the UFC, but I had never really seeked understanding that much until the injury came. I got the brain injury. I had to be a year off. My job and my dream was in jeopardy because I might not have a career anymore depending on how my recovery went. And at that time, when you get to points like that where you really have no control, what are you gonna do? You either gonna break or you're gonna seek God, and that's the moment I felt, because I've always felt God's presence. I've always felt Him blessing me in my life. That's why at 17 I started fighting MMA. 23 I get to the UFC, and I have the run I have in the UFC. I've always felt God blessing me. But at that moment, it was different. You know, it was really God rebuilding me and bringing me closer to Him. That's when I started, you know, reading more of the Bible and really diving in and going to church like I had never gone before, you know, much more consistent and really learning. And by learning, it's that, you know, you really see that's the truth, that's the way, that's the life. And once you find that, nothing else matters. You know, I understand that what I do right here, what I'm doing right here, this is part of my purpose and the purpose He gave me. So there's no worries on my mind anymore. I'm fine with whatever the outcome will be because I know He's taking care of it. And now it's all about living the life He's giving me and be able to share this and be able to bring this to more people so that everybody, you know, can have this peace, can have this tranquility just to enjoy all the blessings that God has for us. And that's what I want to share. That's what I want to, you know, always represent and always show in everything I do.
Vicente was interviewed by someone who doesn't share his faith and was asked about God letting undisciplined people into heaven. Here's how he dealt with that question, making the biblical distinction between salvation as a completely free gift and the good works we do in response out of gratitude rather than earning God's favor.
And there's no way about talking about this, you know, without really highlighting my faith. You know, I'm a Christian. I believe a lot in God. And
I'm not a religious person. We're not going to have a debate about that. But I'm curious your thought about this. Like, do you think God, can you imagine a God that would highly reward some people that don't do that fill their body with junk foods, they waste their time on junk behavior, they don't make the best, they don't respect themselves to do the best that they could every day? Do you think there's a place in heaven for these lazy people that aren't doing everything they could do? Do you think God is happy with them?
I will describe what I do believe. I believe God is so great that none of us are able to earn what He has for us. But with that said, remember what I talk about honoring? I think that's, so if He is so great to me, even though I cannot never deserve what He has for me, I must honor Him as best I can. That's what I did with my parents, you know. I'm gonna not do exactly what they say, let's say what they're telling me at that moment, but I'm gonna honor them. I'm gonna be the son that they wanted me to be. You know, they dreamt with somebody that is gonna be a good man, is gonna, you know, have dreams and is gonna fulfill those dreams and is gonna, you know, make a difference here. And that's what how I honor my parents. And that's what I believe in God too. Like, even though I cannot earn anything from Him, He gives me by His grace, I can honor Him with all I have. So everything will be, you know, if like when I look at God, I see like He is all powerful. How do I honor somebody that has all that power? By doing the best I can, by being the best human being I can in what I understand. So yeah, that's the words I would put it on.
Finally, in August 2024, Vicente's mom came to faith, and he had the privilege of baptizing her. To keep up to date with Vicente Luque, you can follow him on Instagram at Luque Vicente, on X, Vicente Luque MMA, or Facebook, Vicente CP Luque. Thanks so much for watching. If you found it beneficial, please give it a like to help boost the video's reach. And if you'd like to watch other videos on the intersection of faith and MMA, I have a playlist on my YouTube dedicated to that.